I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay my respects to the past and present elders and extend my respect to the other Indigenous Australians. Every day you walk around your community, but you never take notice of the small aspects of the Aboriginal community that live around us today. I live in a small suburb called Crestmead, and at first I couldn't see any evidence of the Aboriginal community being acknowledged until I walked around a few blocks to discover that they were acknowledged. At this local school called St Francis College, they have a building with the words "Everybody Together" in the Yugara and Yugambeh languages. The school hosts Indigenous dance groups, children's playgroups, and cross-cultural programs in their spare time. I also walked to the local park and noticed that they had Aboriginal artwork across the community building. Whilst driving to a main shopping centre, a few blocks from my house were blocks of land being torn apart. I find this confronting as land is highly important to their culture and they are spiritually connected to the earth. Protecting the land and its sacred sites is more important than developing it. Non-Indigenous people have problems understanding the close relationship to an Aboriginal and their land. They have lost all their traditional connections, so the least we can do is take time out of our busy lives to acknowledge their culture more. All my life I've lived in Australia. I've never travelled outside of the country either. However, I have travelled around half of Australia. On my travels, I went to many national sites where Aboriginal people once roamed the earth. I love to go to the local rainforests as I see a bunch of old trees and a place where 200 years ago Aboriginal tribes used to walk the land and connect to it. They name different things as landmarks, and when I visit these national parks there are actual signs with their Aboriginal name and their Australian name. I connect to the nature and I wish that there were more parks and rainforests around. However, I am thankful that there are still some rainforests around. I would like to say I'm a proud Australian when thinking about the country I live in, but what does it mean when I say I am an Australian? For 13 years I've lived in Rochdale South, and when I was young I used to have good connections with the friends who also lived around me. However, I never once came across an Indigenous family whilst I lived there. When I was a young child, I was taught at school that Europeans discovered Australia and found Aboriginal people living here. I was taught that they were made to be slaves and that the men helped the miners and the children were split from their parents. I was never told that the Europeans murdered the parents and children. How can children have respect for a culture and their people if we have grown up hearing partial lies? My parents never talked about the settlement, and now I know why. I'm really glad I had the opportunity to study this course, as it has made me realise what type of a country we actually live in.